The story of abandoned radio stations. And so in our program today, we take another look at the story associated with some more abandoned radio stations. This time, 4 shortwave stations located in the United States and in Africa. We begin with the longtime silent shortwave station located near Upton in Kentucky. Ray Robinson has our story.
Thanks, Jeff. It was back in March 1986 that an application for a new shortwave station was lodged with the FCC on behalf of FM station WJCR, which is located in a country area some 65 miles south of Louisville, Kentucky. The radio station property, with its 200 acres of land, is situated adjacent to the Molin River, a little west of the small town of Millerstown, some 9 miles west of Upton. 6 years later, on March 15, 1992, the first test broadcast went on the air from the new shortwave WJCR on 7490 kHz at a temporarily reduced power. This was a gala occasion for station owner Don Powell, with more than 100 supporters coming in for the event. 2 years later, in 1994, WJCR shortwave was on the air with 3 used 50 kilowatt RCA transmitters, each converted from medium wave by the Armstrong Transmitter Corporation in Marcellus, New York. There were just 2 shortwave antenna systems in use, both rhombics, for coverage of the Americas, Africa and Europe. Thus only 2 transmitters were on the air at any one time. A 4th RCA 50 kilowatt medium wave transmitter was also installed in the transmitter building, though conversion to shortwave was never completed. In 1998, WJCR bought 2 100 kilowatt Continental transmitters from the recently silent VOA shortwave station at Bethany, Ohio, and these 20-year-old units replaced all 4 of the converted RCA units. The shortwave station was sold to Bob Rogers at FM station WJIE in Louisville in April 2002, and they began programming the shortwave transmitters by subcarrier at 9 a.m. on April 28th. However, the WJIE usage of the shortwave station was intermittent and irregular, and even a year later it was stated that the paperwork for the change of shortwave call sign from WJCR to WJIE had not been completed. Just a few of the previous WJCR QSL cards were issued to verify the programming relay from WJIE. 3 years later, in 2005, shortwave WJCR or WJIE was declared silent, and ownership was transferred to new owners with a new call sign, WPBN. However, with the aged transmitters deteriorating, it's probable that they were never activated under this new call sign. At the time of the last known visit to shortwave station WJCR, WJIE, WPBN by an international radio monitor some years ago, the silent electronic equipment was still in place, though it was no longer considered to be of any use in international radio broadcasting. Let's cross over to Africa now, and we pick up the story of 3 shortwave stations that were at one stage in active usage, though they were subsequently abandoned. These 3 stations were located on the west coast of Africa in Liberia and Sao Tome. In 1952, work began on a jungle property 11 miles south of the national capital, Monrovia, for the installation of a new shortwave station that would be operated under the aegis of SIM, the Sudan Interior Mission. The new radio station, ELWA, initially meaning EL for Liberia and WA for West Africa, but subsequently becoming the acronym Eternal Love Winning Africa, was inaugurated 2 years later in a special ceremony on January the 18th, 1954, though their first transmitter was a 1 kilowatt medium wave unit on 710 kHz, not shortwave. 1 year later, in 1955, the first shortwave transmitter was taken into regular service, a 10 kilowatt Gates unit, model HF10A. And then during the next dozen years, an additional 3 shortwave transmitters were installed, 1 at 10 kilowatts and 2 at 50 kilowatts. In the meantime, the American government took out a lease for a VOA relay station on 1,300 acres of land near Careysburg, some 10 miles distant from both the city of Monrovia and the now already established ELWA. While the VOA station was under construction, a transportable station with 3 shortwave transmitters at 50 kilowatts each was brought in from the United States and taken into service in 1959. At its full level of operation, VOA Monrovia contained 2 50-kilowatt Gates transmitters and 6 250-kilowatt GE transmitters. Once the main station was operational, the transportable station was removed and reinstalled at the large VOA station at Point Poro in the Philippines. In August 1990, during the Civil War insurrection, both ELWA Monrovia and VOA Carisburg were attacked and destroyed. Foreign staff had already been evacuated. Some 4,000 Africans fled onto the VOA compound, hoping for protection from the murderous onslaughts. The most massive destruction at the VOA station occurred on September the 17th, when the station was attacked and looted, and in reality just totally destroyed. Meanwhile, over at the ELWA compound, many Africans there also fled onto the property as refugees seeking protection. However, insurgent militia took over the station and forced the remaining local staff to broadcast a false message stating that the government had been overthrown. As a result, government forces attacked the station with artillery shells. Even though ELWA was virtually totally destroyed in the 1990 insurgency, the station was partially rebuilt 3 years later with a 10-kilowatt Collins transmitter that had been rebuilt by Armstrong Electronics in New York, and that was on the air with only 5 kilowatts. Subsequently, a more than 44-year-old 50-kilowatt unit from the original KGEI in San Francisco was also installed at ELWA. However, give one more year to 1996, and insurgents again attacked the station, once more totally destroying it. In the meantime, the Voice of America sought a new and safe location for the installation of another shortwave station, and a location on a peninsula just 3 miles south of the coastal city Sao Tome, on the island of Sao Tome, was offered to them. Interestingly, this location was itself at the time an abandoned shortwave station which had previously been in use by Radio Nacional for a period of some 60 years. At the time of the initial VOA inspection in 1992, the 10-kilowatt shortwave transmitter, set to 4807.5 kHz, was still in location, though it was obviously no longer usable. Radio broadcasts from the new VOA station began in May 1993. So, what has become of the 2 damaged and destroyed shortwave stations located near Monrovia in Liberia? Well, the ex-VOA station is now in use as an American military base for the training of local army personnel in Liberia. The main highway to the military encampment, Camp Sandy S. Ware, is no more than a sloppy mud track through an undeveloped country area. The ELWA station was twice destroyed in 1990 and 1996, and twice somewhat temporarily abandoned. However, to their credit, the station has again been rebuilt, and is now on the air mornings and evenings with a 1-kilowatt shortwave transmitter on 6050 kHz. The property also accommodates a modern hospital facility and a village of modern staff housing. Back to you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Ray. Some news now from